everybody to Quarantine Tuesday, hosted by me, Dahlia Bifus, your hospitality chair of the CAWC. And Quarantine Tuesday today, we have the lovely Louisa Keating, who is going to share with us home improvement ideas and home design. How would you describe your services?
Tips and tricks of the trade.
Fabulous.
Sharing today. Yeah.
I'm excited. I've just moved house, so I'm very excited to learn tips and tools of the trade. I wanted to actually submit some questions to you, but I can't even see my eyes from my elbows because of all the boxes. So maybe when I'm settled in, then I can contact you for some ideas.
Pleasure. Love to help.
Fabulous.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining this morning. It's so nice to see you on this beautiful, sunny and wonderful good news that we had last night. So hope everybody's looking forward to trying to get back to normal soon. I just thought I would join and share a few tips and tricks of the trade. I mean, that is the one thing we all have in common is our homes, and we obviously love them, and they're so individual and unique. And that's what I love about this industry the most, is it's just so different, and it's really, for me, all about the people. So before I get started and share my screen in the presentation, I just thought I'd tell you a little bit about me. And some of you know me, some of you don't, but just a little background on how I kind of came into design. But I'm originally from Michigan, and my dad was a builder, a general contractor. So I really just grew up on building sites my whole life and loved it. My mom didn't really have any formal training, but she had such a great eye and such a flair, and was always really bold in her design. So obviously I think that's where I got some of her genes, thankfully, and ideas and things like that when I was growing up. And when I was very young, they bought a beautiful colonial home that was a real fixer-upper. So I just grew up always kind of having one room and another done, always having trades, painters, decorators, electricians in and out of our house. And obviously loved that and loved the whole process, and it rubbed off on me. I designed my first room, now if I think about it, when I was about 11 or 12 years old. My mom indulged me and let me do my bedroom, and as such a young age, but I picked out 2 different wallpapers and a special carpet and custom some blinds, and I insisted at that very young age that I didn't want a normal desk. I wanted an architect's draft desk. So I really should have known then that this was all in the making. But I then got a bit older, and when I went to college, it was quite the production. And I was probably the only person that would bring all my own furniture with me in our furnished dorms, because what was there wasn't good enough. I mean, I think even one year I built some like boxes and colored them and designed my room and the layout. And I think I even gave my dad a paint swatch of the exact color carpet that I wanted, and I brought carpet and fitted it before I moved into my room. So it was a little bit of a problem then, didn't realize, but I also had the opportunity to travel to Europe a lot, absolutely loved London, and I loved the design here. So I came over here and obviously never left, and just was bitten by the design bug. I was lucky enough to work for a really big design studio in Chelsea before I set up my own company, which LinkedIn very kindly reminded me last month in January was 20 years ago. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. And I thought today I would just share a few tricks of the trade, some ideas, things that everybody can do for themselves, or you've all seen these wonderful magazines and beautiful pictures of homes, thinking I want that. And these are just some ideas on how you can get that look and things that you can do yourself at home. So I will share my screen with you and get started. Let me share. Okay, now I hopefully can't, I can see everybody, but hopefully everybody can see that. So now that you've sort of heard a little bit about me, I've worked everywhere, all over the place, actually, all over London, all over the UK. I've done some projects in France. I've done some projects in the US. So these are just some of them are my projects, some are other images. I just thought I'd share with you some great ideas. And I have 7 points that I'm going to focus on today to share with you. So the very first thing I would say, and it sounds very obvious, but is to have a plan. You need to have time to plan out a room if you're going to design it. And that time is very well spent. You need to consider how you're going to use the room. I would even make a checklist and make sure that you are going to be able to do everything that you want to do in the room. Sometimes you will need to prioritize. If you've got a big living open space that maybe opens the kitchen and you want it to be a TV room, a sitting room, maybe a play area for the kids, or even a desk, sometimes you can't fit it all in, but at least you've made your checklist, you've gone through and made a decision on what are the priority areas, and make sure that that room is going to work for you. You might even have, you need a space for it to flow or pass. You might have to arrange your furniture in a way that you can kind of come in and out of the room or come through the room. Or is it a TV room? So you might need more seats that face in one direction, something like that. Or you might have a small bedroom, but you still need to get a lot of activities in there. So you might need to consider using like a chest of drawers, or maybe even a desk next to your bed instead of a little bedside table. So when you're planning your room, I always don't like when you come into a room if you walk into the back of a sofa. So it's ideal if you can plan not to come into the back of a sofa. It's usually one of the biggest pieces of furniture in the room. And if you put that across the front, that sort of just blocks the flow. It kind of blocks the feeling of the room, sometimes makes it feel a little bit smaller. So it's always better to come into a room, if you have to have seating on that side, to actually use a pair of chairs. They're a little bit more open. They don't feel as big. You can sometimes walk through them or around them more easily. So that's just something to think about. Also, if you've got a pair of sofas, or you feel like it's sort of quite a block when you walk into the room, even on the side of the arm, sometimes just have a throw draped over the arm. That will minimize the kind of impact of walking into a big piece of furniture. And then another thing that is very useful to do is just to draw your room out. Size is everything, and planning the space is really important. So you can do that really easily just by a simple piece of graph paper. Make sure the little boxes are whatever they are, 10 centimeters, 10 inches, however you want to, or a foot, whatever it is you want to do, and measure up. And then you can cut out little furniture templates like you can see in the presentation here. And that will tell you what size sofa you're going to need, or what size dining table works best for your room. So it's really important that you do this important planning stage, so that you are looking for furniture and things that are the right size for your space. And write them down, keep them somewhere, have them with you all the time. So when we do get back to normal and we're out in the world, you have those things. So if you spot something, you've got those sizes right there available to hand. The second thing I thought I wanted to talk about with you is lighting. It is such an important part of any room, and it's such an important layer in any room. So with lighting, you've got three different types of lighting. You've got general or ambient lighting, which is just kind of illuminating a room. You've got task lighting, which is very specific and focused on a certain area. And then you've also got something called accent lighting, which is kind of probably more decorative, more, calling attention to something and focusing on something. So when you come into a room, there are three different levels of light. So you have level at the top of the room. You've got the high level light. So in these rooms, you'll see they've got spotlights. Now, if you're lucky enough to be able to plan a room from scratch, you've probably seen lots of rooms before where the spotlights are just in sort of like a grid, like a square pattern. But it really is better if you're planning a room to think about your lighting. And that's why your furniture plan and having a plan is so important, because it's better to use the light in a more directed way. So put it in areas where you want to highlight something, where you really want to make a feature. So where you might have art. So for instance, obviously this room, you've got the fireplace. So you want a piece of art perhaps over the fireplace, or you might have art either side of the fireplace in the mirror. So you've put those spotlights just to highlight that. You can also look to possibly highlight your curtains or your window treatments. That's a great place to put lights. Or if you have any sort of tall furniture, carpentry, joinery, shelves, that sort of thing. Or also maybe in the center of the room, directly over a coffee table. So this way you are highlighting the main features of a room, and the light will kind of shine on those and reflect and bounce back into the room and give it just that general overall glow. The next layer of light in a room is a sort of middle layer. So this is wall sconces, floor lamps, table lamps. This is what gives you that sort of really warm ambient light, that sort of mood lighting. You know, there might be times when you don't want the ceiling lights or the high level lights on, and you just want that low level mood lighting. So it's really important to make sure that you consider those two as together but separate, so they both work on their own individually. I have a really particular position that I like for my wall lights. I like them at 170 centimeters off the floor to the center of the fitting. So it's a really particular, so I sometimes see people put them quite high, sometimes people put them too low. Mostly I think people put them too high. So that's just a little tip that has worked very well and sort of helps you position art, put it over furniture. Also, if you might have in your bedroom some bedside wall lights, if you look for that, I always like to put those 120 centimeters above the floor. It gives you enough height above any kind of bedside table, but it's the right height for just giving you that general light next to your bedside. I mean, I was just to show you this room. Obviously, we've picked out the light in a mirror here and on the dining table. That's just kind of showing you how it works. The other type of lighting in a bedroom, I've obviously talked about a living room. You might want to just use those ceiling lights over the bed to highlight the bed area, or maybe in front of a wardrobe to pick out those details. So the other type of lighting, the last type of lighting is accent lighting. So that's kind of the real showcase pieces, the real stop wow. So a lot of times you can do some shelves, or you've got some carpentry, you're sort of lighting that and making a real feature of that. Another really neat trick as well is to light either side of your fireplace. It's really effective. It gives a great mood and it's quite striking, and it really pulls out the fireplace. You can see sort of the difference between having the light on the fireplace and not having the light. It does make it quite dramatic and gives you lovely shadows. Another place, if you are lucky enough to be planning your room from scratch, is to have lights in your windows. I think a lot of people forget about that, but on your windowsills, sort of shining up either side of your windows, it really picks out the details of the window, especially in the evening. Another sort of tip that I like to use when planning a room is if I'm looking at using pendant lights. Oh, sorry, I forgot about bathrooms. Very, very important. Sorry about that. Go back a step. For bathrooms, obviously you need lots of good general light. So it's really good to have that ceiling light over the bathtub or over a shower, and then over your sink and over your toilet. But what's really important, and I don't know if you've ever noticed when you go somewhere, if there's only light from overhead, you get that sort of shadow over your face. And it isn't very flattering. You can't see yourself very well. So it's not a good way to light. So in a bathroom, ideally, it's really important that you have light from either side, to the left and right of your face. So you get that sort of even glow and you can sort of see yourself, and it's also much more flattering. So keep that in mind. So what I was going to say, moving on then to pendant lights, they are such a great statement piece if you're trying to give a room a real wow. And I always prefer to go bigger, always scale up on pendant lights. I know it's a bit of a scary thought, but the bigger ones do always look more dramatic and just look more wow when you come into a room. So this is just, I mean, like this space here was a lovely sort of open plan flat, and we just used two huge pendant lights here to kind of anchor the dining table in place, but it just made a real statement. And you see a lot of people putting beautiful pendant lights over their kitchen island, but you can go quite big if you want and make a statement. Another thing is when you're looking at a dining room, if you do have a light over your dining table, sometimes if you hang it just a bit lower than your natural instinct might allow, it is a bit more dramatic because you're sort of bringing it down closer to the table and making it, you know, a little bit more of a dramatic piece. So that's on lighting. So I hope that gives you a little bit of hints and tips, but you can always add in floor lamps and table lamps. I was just thinking, obviously, if you're renting and you don't have the advantage of having fitted lights, table lamps, floor lamps, little uplighters, those are always great things that you can introduce to kind of get those different levels of lighting in your room. So the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is paint. So paint is certainly the easiest and fastest and quite cost-effective way to change a room and create an instant mood. With paint, you can go for really bold colors, and it just completely transforms a space, literally in a matter of hours. And you can use it on an accent wall, like we've shown here. We have this amazing staircase in this townhouse in London, and rather than just kind of paint it a subtle color, we went for this really beautiful, deep Farrow ball color, and it just made the whole staircase pop out and made it such a great feature carrying through the whole house. So you can use paint in a really strong way on just one wall as an accent wall. Maybe you don't want to go for the whole room, but you want to have a little bit of character, but you can see how it just transforms a room completely. Or another way you can use paint and be very bold is to go for the whole room and just really, go for it. One thing to point out here, though, if you are using paint in the whole room, if you want to add height to a room, you can paint both the skirting or the baseboard and the cornice and the crown molding the same color as the wall, and that will actually add height because you're not breaking it up with those sort of horizontal lines with those two in a lighter color or a white color. If you use the same color as the wall, it will add a lot of height. So when choosing a paint, it is a bit of a daunting and scary process trying to get the right color. My advice would be never, ever, ever choose from the swatches in the paint shop. They are not the actual paint finish. So it's really important to get tester pots. You can get tiny little tester pots of all the paint. And I tend to actually paint them up on heavy duty card. And I will paint them up properly and put on 2 or 3 coats. So you get a good coverage and you get the proper color. And I know some people will paint them on their actual wall, but you're only usually putting it on one wall. And I think it's really nice to have the card and quite a few coats so that you can move it around to all the different walls in your room. Light reflects so differently off different surfaces. So you might find that it looks like a totally different color on one wall to the other. So I think that's a really great way of helping you choose the right paint. Make sure you get your tester pots and paint up a few colors and move them around the room. Look at them during the day, look at them in the evening, and then that will help you be a bit more brave in your choice and know that you're choosing the right color for your scheme. The next area I wanted to talk to you about is rugs. So obviously rugs are a great way to add a lot of interest and texture and color and pattern to a scheme. But what I wanted to talk to you about was the actual size of rugs. So for me, this is a really important part to get right in a room. So they act as a grounding element, and it's just, especially in open plan spaces, it's really important that you get the size of the rug right. And making it bigger and making it bright means you're using more of the room, you're claiming more of the space for your seating or your dining or your bedroom, whatever it is. And it does actually help make the room feel bigger. So what we like to do in our schemes is either have your sofa completely on the rug if it's in the middle of the room, or have the rug go at least halfway underneath the sofa if it's at the edge of a room. So that way you're including the sofa in the room. So rather than putting the rug in front of the sofa, you're including the sofa in the room by bringing at least the front legs, half of it on. And then you can have your side tables or whatever's next to it actually on the floor. And then same with any other sort of chairs or anything. You can either have, if you've got the space, it's great to have the chairs completely on the rug, or if it's a little bit tighter, you could still have at least the whole front half and front legs of the chair on the rug. So it just means rather than the rug coming up to the furniture, I definitely prefer to take it under the furniture. It just gives you a bigger area to the eye when you walk in a room and makes it feel a lot larger. One thing you do have to be careful though, when you are planning out your rug and how big and the size, is doors. Make sure you obviously have a swing of a door. Normally you wouldn't get a door over the top of a rug. So you need to make sure that you can open and close your doors easily. So sometimes you have to move your rug in a little bit on the sides just to make sure those door swings aren't going to be a problem. So in a dining room, really important to get the rug right, because there's nothing more annoying than sort of pushing your chair back and always getting it caught on a rug, or trying to pull your chair up to the table. So it's really important there, especially, that you get the size right. We normally like to allow at least 80 centimeters from the edge of the table all the way around as a minimum. More would be better. That way, even if you're having dinner and you push back and you just want to relax, you know you're not going to get that horrible chair leg catching on the edge of a rug. In a bedroom, for the areas where if you don't have carpet and you've got sort of a lovely wood floor or marble or something, and you just need that rug to add a bit of softness, again, think about scaling up the rug as big as possible. We always try to go underneath the bed and almost completely up to the bedside tables, but we keep the bedside tables on the floor itself and just have the rug come out right in front of it. And you can have the rug either go as wide as the bedside tables, or a little bit wider would be better. And it just makes the room feel a lot bigger. And also make sure when you're sizing it, so go around the edge of the bed and the foot of the bed, that you've got enough room to walk comfortably. So again, I would say at least 80 centimeters would work on that. But yeah, again, make that as big as possible so you can claim more of that space and footfall for the bedroom and make it feel a bit bigger.
Needs the ID. They got the wrong one. They can't get on.
Okay, I'll have to speak to you later. I'll speak to you later.
Oh, okay. They wanted to go on now.
Instagram.
Sorry?
It's on Instagram.
All right.
Sorry about that. Somebody's trying to join the call and I can't get on. Right. So these rooms, I just thought I'd show you. Obviously, we've got all of the sofa, all the seating, everything. It's quite a big room, but we've made the rug quite big because it just claims more of the space, makes it feel better. Again, same thing here where you've got all the sofas on. In a dining room, like I said, you just want to allow enough space that you can push your chair back comfortably and not have that horrible catching of the legs. And here in the bedrooms, that shows you sort of at least take it up to the bedside table, a bit wider, lots of space at the foot if you can manage it. And it just, again, lays claim to more of the room and makes it feel a bit bigger. So the next point I wanted to talk to you about was curtains and blinds. One tip it's important to me is to actually put your curtains up as high as possible. This gives a sort of linear line that when you walk into a room, it sort of draws your eye up. It gives you a lot more height to a room. And that is really important to have that feeling of space. So you'll notice in all of these images that the curtains are way above the window. So we haven't hung our curtain poles at the top of the window. We've gone right up, in some places up to the cornicing of the crown molding, because it just gives you that extra height and that real wow factor. I think it's, it's always a really dramatic change in the room if you do take those curtains up. The other thing is you can do that as well with blinds. So if you've just got like a Roman shade or a Roman blind, like in these two rooms, this bedroom particularly had a really low window. So where this blind finishes across here, the window was almost just above that. And it did feel very low. So to hide that, we made sure we took the blind right up to the top of as high as we could. And what it does is, again, it brings your eye all the way up. It leads your eye up in the room. And it almost makes you have that sort of perception that the window is as big as that, it's as tall as that, and it gives a lovely proportion to the room. Same thing in this area where we've taken, the blinds go up as high as possible. So that's really important. That's something really simple. I know even if you're renting a house and you're putting up curtains, just make sure that you put them up as high, put the pole up or a blind or anything up as high as you can. The next thing I wanted to share with you is about mirrors. Now, we all know mirrors are great at opening up spaces and making things bigger. But what I wanted to sort of do is talk to you about how to use them in a slightly more interesting way rather than just a single mirror. So one thing a little trick that we love to do is actually use mirrors in multiples. So in sets of 3, or maybe as a whole decorative feature, a whole wall. It's a really nice way to open up a space. If you've got a narrow hallway, or if you've got a room that's a little bit smaller on one side, you can do something really decorative with sets of mirrors. Sometimes they're fine just on their own, like in this sort of dining area. If you have the opportunity, we've done them before, where you put little wall sconces and wall lights in between them. It gives it a lot of character and interest, but it just kind of adds a real wow factor to a room. Another way to use mirror is actually, rather than actual mirrors, is mirror sheet on the wall. It's an amazing way to open up a space and make a room a lot bigger. So for example, in this little bedroom, this was a tiny bedroom. I mean, it's hard to tell from the picture, but it was literally only wide enough for a bed and 2 little bedside tables. And it was such a tight room, but it had these amazing, tall, beautiful ceilings and a huge window. So it almost felt like it was a bit too tall and narrow. So what we did is we mirrored all the way from the headboard all the way up to the ceiling. And it just made the room feel almost double in size. In this case, we built in a little decorative shelf to add some pictures and make it a bit interesting. But you can see how actually using sheets of mirror on a wall can really change the feeling of a room and open it up instantly. I mean, again, this is another room where we've got like panels of mirror that go behind the bed, behind the bedside tables. It just really opened up the room. And this is an amazing one in the staircase. So this looks like a really spacious, gorgeous staircase, actually quite pokey and really small. But again, just using mirror across the entire back wall as you came up, reflected, and it gave you some amazing views as well. That's the lovely thing about using mirrors, is you see some angles and things like that that you normally wouldn't catch. So you could see up to the top of the stairs, and you could see the detail on the underside of the stairs. So it's a really fun way to open up your space. Obviously, it bounces light off. It's another way to add a lot of more light and brightness to a room. So when you're looking at using mirrors, maybe think about doing them in a slightly more adventurous way, rather than just hanging a single mirror. This is another way, if you didn't want a whole room, that's really effective. We've done this either with long, tall mirrors hung above a bedside table, or literally hung on a mirror sheet on the wall either side of a bedroom. But again, it just opens up the feeling of space, makes it feel a lot wider, reflects the light. It just adds a real focal point to the bed, and kind of drawing your eye to that space even more. And we've actually even used mirrors in kitchens before. So instead of a stone or a glass tile splashback, we've used mirror, which is amazing. It's really easy. It's very tough. You can wipe it clean. It's easy to maintain, but it is amazing how much light it can reflect back into the room. And it always looks, and you always get these amazing views. But yeah, you can even use mirror on kitchen splashbacks to great effect. The last little tip I wanted to talk to you about is layering. I don't know if you remember earlier in the talk, I talked about layering of light, but this is layering of your furnishings. So hopefully you've planned your room, you've been out, you've got your furniture, you've got your rug, you've got your lighting, you've got all these amazing things, you've hung your curtains, you've painted your walls, but it still doesn't look like the magazine pictures. The layering is probably one of the most important steps in finalizing and finishing your room. And by layering, we really mean accessories. So art, pictures, mirrors, books, objects, plants are so important, flowers. This really, you do need to think about this just as much as all the other rooms, because this is sort of the finishing touches. These are the kind of jewelry of the outfit, if you were, of the room. And it's really important to consider them. Pillows, throws, it's kind of what adds the softness. It's where you can add a little bit of personality, color. It's so important to add that sort of texture, pattern, shape, and it just makes a room come alive and give it that sort of character and that personality. Another thing to think about as well is obviously when you come into a room, one of the other senses is smell. And I know we had a discussion about candles when we met last. So those are really important as well to kind of set the mood, set the tone of the room and how you feel in it. And that's a really important layer. But it also goes for, you don't need to be overly crowded with them. You can also just have a few simple things, but it just sets the mood, gives you a feeling in the space, and it's just really important. And don't forget about the other areas of your house, but your kitchen or your dining room or your bedrooms. You can still add those sort of little personal touches and layer things to make it look amazing. I think the hardest part about layering is editing, knowing when to stop, knowing when you've put enough or perhaps too much. So one tip that I think is quite useful is to keep a box maybe somewhere in the house, or that you swap some of your accessories over. You might have lots of beautiful things that you've collected, but it's really hard to show them all and sort of have that sort of slightly calm or restful look if that's what you're going for. So it's a good idea to keep a box, and you can swap them out. You maybe do it per season or whenever the mood takes you, but you can change your things up, and it also gives it sort of quite fresh. You know, sometimes you don't see things all the time. So it's a nice way of doing it if you have lots of accessories and you're a collector, but you don't have the space to show them all. So those are my sort of 7 little tips to help you put together a room of your own. I hope that was really useful. I hope there's been some little nuggets there that were going to help you kind of bring your home together a bit more cohesively and look more like the magazines. I did have a few questions from people ahead of time, so I thought I would share one of them if that's all right. So if anybody wants to unmute themselves and jump in and make any comments or chat or questions, I'll do that just at the end. So I just thought I'd go through. One of the ladies has sent in some photographs of 2 areas in the house that sort of she couldn't quite overcome and couldn't figure out what to do with them. So I thought I would just share them here. The first one was a little entry hall. It's a beautiful entry hall actually, but it's this little area under the stairs, and it's just sort of trying to figure out how to deal with this. Does the person whose house this want to jump on for a minute?
Hi, Louisa.
Hello, how are you?
So it's our entryway.
Yes, your beautiful entryway.
We completely ripped this house apart a couple years ago and put it together, but this area under the stairs, it just continues to drive me crazy. I move things in and out of it. And I don't know, I would love to, we put a light there because I envisioned hanging some art there, but nothing seems, I haven't found the right pieces to make it work. And so we just have this kind of too small little chair and weird seasonal flower thing stuck there for now. So that's why I was reaching out to you for help.
Oh, fantastic. But it is tricky. I mean, it's such an interesting architectural detail, but when you actually try to use it practically, I can see that you just have to sit there scratching your head. But so I can see you've got a lot of amazing finishes in this entrance hall. You've got this beautiful wood, you've got glass, you've got lovely mirror. Is that a tiled floor or wood?
It's a wood effect porcelain tile. So
okay, yeah.
It looks like wood, but it's harder wearing because we have a 100-pound dog.
Gorgeous dog. Yeah, so obviously I can see this, you've got all these amazing finishes in this space, but the one thing that I would say is they're all what I would call sort of hard finishes. Do you know what I mean? The sort of glass, mirror, wood's a little bit softer, but then you've obviously got the tile floor, painted walls. So there's a lot of hard finishes there. So I actually think in that space, it would be really nice to introduce some softness. So you have a little bit more of like a feeling of being drawn to the nook and it being a little bit more of a cozy place to go, a cocooning place. So because you were very kind to send these early, I could prepare a little something for you. Ooh. So just coming up with some ideas. I think it would be really nice. There's 2 things we could do, is either sort of more of a permanent kind of built-in solution or a freestanding solution. But I think for both of them, I think you really want to consider adding some softness in there and texture. So again, all those beautiful finishes that are in your entrance hall are very smooth. So I think it'd be really great to get some more texture and softness in there. You could easily build over the steps because you've obviously got that the steps kind of to contend with as well. But you could have a carpenter come in and build something over them, and I will send this to you, don't worry. You could have a carpenter build something, but they could incorporate storage. I think it'd be really important to have sort of an upholstered cushion or a fixed seat or something over the top of it. Throw in a few cushions just to kind of fill that corner where it goes up against the stairs a bit. And I think that would add a lot of softness. You very cleverly have put a light in there, which is amazing. So you could keep that light, or you might get one that's a little bit more decorative and kind of shines down a bit and make a bit more of a feature of the light. So you could have something built in with a seat, or, I mean, this is kind of an interesting thing to do where you have like a cushion hung at the back. So you could just have the seat done and then have the cushion hung, have a, you know, a little soft upholstery section like that. You could even have, if you didn't want it sort of like solid and closed, you could have something open like this one on the left, and put baskets in there, or boxes, or really something pretty, which is also very practical. So it's somewhere to throw shoes, or in the winter hats or gloves. You just kind of hide all that clutter, but have it really accessible. Or as you say, if that's where you're going to sort of sit to change your shoes, it's a great place to throw it. But also you could introduce lots of color, texture, pattern. So that's one idea if you wanted a more kind of built-in approach. The other idea is, again, I still want to bring fabric into that area, but you would need to have sort of kind of a low, you could have a lovely little low back bench with, again, a beautiful texture of fabric, a few cushions to maybe introduce some color. You could even introduce sort of a little side table if somebody was sitting down and they were carrying something and they just wanted to put a bag down, or a little, who knows, maybe you've presented them with Prosecco on entry and they need to get their shoes off quickly, but so you could have a little table, and then also little baskets, or again, adding that texture into the space of baskets to hide things underneath. And I think, as you said, you always intended to put a picture there. I think it would be great to have a single piece of art, or even like 3 smaller ones with the wall light above. I think that would be a really great way to treat that area. I mean, these are just some other bench options I thought would be an option. You see this lovely sort of wooden bench here, but you could add a cushion, again, texture. This is an amazing sort of little side table. It's actually a petrified log. Again, it's just kind of adding a bit more interest in the pieces. Or something like this where you have the upholstered element and the bit underneath for baskets. So that's one little thought for that area of your room.
That's great. Thank you, Louisa.
That help?
Yes.
Then I think the other area you were talking about is your amazing dining area, where I think you've got this gorgeous sort of carpentry with all these beautiful display shelves. And I have to just say, your cute little bear, I have him too.
Do you?
Yes, I do. I love him. Yeah, I have him. He's gorgeous. So, but you've obviously got lots of beautiful display space there. So you already have that element kind of in the area. Then you've got this gorgeous pendant, which is really the main feature. And then I think you said that's a screen. Is it like a...
Yeah, so that's a frame TV, which is great because I can see it in the kitchen when I'm cooking and whatnot. But the problem is it's kind of in the middle of that wall. Can't really do a gallery wall around it, have this big blank wall next to it. And so the big blank wall and kind of the TV wall are driving me a bit nuts because I don't really know what to do with them. So they've remained blank.
They remain blank. Well, I can see why the gallery wall doesn't really work there, because you've already got, to the left of that, you've already got these amazing shelves, and that's kind of a feature. That's kind of your detail and where your eye goes. And I would almost say to you, I don't think leaving it blank is the answer, as you said, but that needs to be the area of rest. So that's the other thing, when you're looking at a room and you're designing a room, not everything can be a focal point, not everything can shout, not everything can be a look at me moment. Sometimes you have to have those, what I call quieter places to go. Your eye needs to have somewhere to rest in a room as well. It can't always be so busy. So what I thought is, obviously that's more of a kinetic, the screen or the picture, that's obviously a moving image there. But I think what you need to do is something really simple. So you need to have what I would call slightly more quiet gallery or quiet art. And am I right in thinking you're like the most amazing photographer?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
She is, isn't she? But you know, you could have, if you wanted to make it personal, you could pick a few sort of pictures, but either have like a pair or a set of 3 or 4. But I think it needs to be quiet and perhaps maybe a little bit more vertical. So take it down so everything isn't sort of completely at the same height.
And this is the blank wall, Louisa?
Yeah, for the blank wall.
I'm looking at it right now. Perfect.
Oh, well, there you go. Perfect. I mean, this is a really fun idea where it's like a single photograph, but like all broken up into 3 frames. And I know you've got sort of an amazing eye, so you could do something really fun like that. But it doesn't necessarily have to be black and white photo, but I think it does need to be something a little bit more quiet. So like, for example, like this is art. It's decorating the wall. It's sort of anchoring the space, but it's not shouting. You know, it's not saying, look at me. So I think you need that sort of slightly more quiet, or even, you know, I mean, this is quite, but a little element of this, just something that's maybe a little bit more simple, or maybe you do want a little pop of color there.
Is that framed fabric, or is that paint?
It's like a wallpaper.
Okay.
It's like a really textured wallpaper, but yeah. I mean, but you could do anything, but I think it does need to probably be a slightly more quiet aspect, really, because you've got lots of things going on around it. And that's probably why it's such a hard thing. Like, it's such a struggle to figure out what to put there. The other thing you could do, I can't, you know, if it's a slightly informal area or a little bit more informal, is you could do like a beautiful big sort of like pin board, bulletin board, like have it be a lovely color, have it have a lovely frame around it. And you could have it be an ever-changing display of art, if you have things for kids to put up, or, you know, just interesting bits. So that's another way you could do it if you didn't want to actually have yet more art and you wanted to do something a little bit unusual and different. And you could also, again, if it's a slightly more informal area, you could have something with blackboard paint. So you could put that in a frame, or you could paint the whole wall and just have it be, you know, have a little saying scribed on there. That's a little bit more maintenance, and you have to look after it and change it and look, but you know, it's just a bit of fun. So if you wanted something a bit different and fun for that area. So does that help with your problem corner, as it were?
Yeah, that's a couple ideas now. That's really, really helpful.
Okay,
Actually, an idea for another room as well from your last page, your last slide.
Fantastic.
Just a quick general question, since I'm unmuted, if you don't mind. What are your thoughts on wallpaper versus paint for feature walls?
Love them both. I mentioned paint because it's so easy and affordable, but I adore wallpaper. I love using it as a feature wall. I love using it on all walls. I like them both. I think it sort of depends. I love that wallpaper can actually add texture. So paint can add that drama of color, but if you have a wallpaper, that can actually add a texture. It adds that layer of warmth, almost like being wrapped in, you can get some that are, it's almost like being wrapped in fabric in the whole room or something like that. So I am an equal fan of both. So now I just thought, you know, thank you so much, everybody, for sitting and listening. I hope that those tips were really useful. Love it if anybody would get in touch with me. So, I mean, if you don't want to share today, I'm really happy if you want to get in touch with me, or you can post on my Instagram page if you want to send a picture, and I can look at your very specific room and have a bit of time to think about it, like I've done for Daniela there. Now I did get some pictures from, I am going to go find my screen, if you forgive me for a minute, from Andrea. Andrea, are you there?
I am, yes.
Hello. So you're embarking on an entire whole room.
Yeah, I'm just thinking I should just get you round, to be honest. And my husband's been here, what's over my shoulder, turn my camera off. He's like, just get around, just get that woman in our house. And
I
not just
like your husband's way of thinking. Well, you look like you've got an amazing blank canvas to work with, which is very exciting. And lots more than just a little area. So I can see you've got, you know, quite an amazing sitting room, but probably needs a bit of that paint or a bit of wallpaper, and the lighting definitely.
I just did it blank. Yeah, took a dado rail off when I was doing a renovation.
Okay.
fixed the burst as a result of that, and then just painted it white. The skirting boards are still wood as well, wood colour.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, just been sick a little bit. So I need to do something with them as well. I'm just going to get you over. Yeah. And you can just give me advice. I just know that you'll make it so much nicer than it is. And
Amazing. No, it looks like an absolute amazing blank canvas ready to go for sort of, you know, a little layer of this and that. And I noticed you've got your TV sort of pulled out on an angle.
TV's on the wall. Well, it can go flat. I think I just took some photos quickly. Yeah, there's probably crisp packets in those photos. I don't know. But I took the photos quite quickly. Yeah, it's over the fireplace, which was where the previous people had put a fixed point, which I hate the TV over the fireplace.
Okay.
I don't know what to do with it. The room isn't huge, so I might need help with that. And maybe there is a way of doing that. Chris, my other half, talks about a TV that looks like a mirror. Now, no, I've seen those before.
Yes.
So that could work because I like the idea of that. But
yeah, so you would see a mirror when you came in rather than
a flat black TV.
Yeah, no, well, definitely. I think a few of the things I mentioned, I mean, I'm very happy to talk to you about it further, but I think, you know, definitely putting something on the wall, whether it's paint or a texture, or wallpaper or a feature wall. And then I think getting those layers of light are really important. So you obviously have that center fixture where you've got lots of general ambient light, but maybe introducing a few floor lamps, a few more table lamps. I think you've got a couple of table lamps in there, but just kind of having that sort of softer light. Maybe if you're watching TV in the evening, something like that.
Yeah, no, there's lots of options. I don't mind what I do in there. I just want it to look just more, I don't know, just different. I'm so
you just want to walk in the room and go, ah.
I'm so bored of it. I'd like it to be a bit more glamorous and yeah, a bit more welcoming.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I think, again, that's to do with texture. So I don't know, do you have a rug in there at the moment?
I do have a rug, yeah, but it's one that I've had in for a while and there's nothing wrong with it, but I would like to recycle it.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, that's the other thing. So even when I probably didn't mention that at the beginning, when you're making your checklist, obviously if you have other things and, you know, that you want to reuse and keep, that's really important too, that you get those down on paper and make sure that you're kind of incorporating them and choosing things that sit well with them.
Yeah, that doesn't have to stay in there, but yeah, we can chat offline. I'm wondering, it's wooden floor in there at the moment as well, and I'm wondering whether a carpet might be a nice alternative. But if you can give, you know, if you've got some time and you can come
definitely over. Oh, definitely. Fantastic. Thank you for sending it in. So I think I've answered everybody's questions on, I'm going to stop screen sharing now. So I think I've answered the questions I had ahead of time, but I didn't know if anybody had some little questions about anything that I've mentioned. I'm going to go to the chat now so I can see what everybody's been chatting about. So let's see.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Louisa. That was amazing. I'm going to stop recording now and then we can see if there's any more questions, and then I will post that up for our on YouTube for our membership so they can also share in your fantastic information.
Lovely. Thank you.
I